It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting just by emailing me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. So to pluck our next guest right off the headlines, Lev Parnas. You could find him at levremembers.com. He's got a podcast. It's a weekly podcast going to be coming out on Lev Parnas. LevRemembers.com is the website. And the brand new book, it's coming out Christmas time because you can all make pre-orders right now at LevRemembers.com. Shadow Diplomacy, Lev Parnas' Wild Ride from Brooklyn to Donald Trump's Inner Circle. Mr. Lev Parnas, are you there?
Yes, hi, Ed. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Tell us, who is Lev Parnas?
Ed, Lev Parnas. I'll try to do it quickly, not to take up a lot of time, but I was born in Ukraine, Odessa, Ukraine, and we immigrated to the United States in 1976 when I was about 3.5 years old. We were based out of Brooklyn, New York, is where I grew up. My father passed away when I was 11 years old, and I was forced to grow up at a very early age and become the man of the house. And that was a time where Brooklyn was kind of a tight-knit community. They called it Little Odessa. It was Russian, Ukrainian, Jewish immigrants that fled the Soviet Union and kind of immigrated to build a community in a place called Brighton Beach in New York. And that's where I grew up. I grew up on the streets of New York. My life took me to a lot of interesting individuals. Growing up on the streets, I was able to, for the good or bad of it, able to see a lot of things, a lot of different individuals, from a lot of some of your famous, infamous Italian and Russian mobsters to, eventually getting to the White House and being around the President of the United States. So I have had quite a ride, and that's why I decided to write the book, because there's a lot of things that have transpired in the Trump world, and the news media cycle changes so often with him. It's something that's never happened before. Usually we have breaking news, and the public has a chance to get it in, understand it. It's a couple of days. With Trump, he changes the news cycle 2-3 times a day, maybe even more, and people don't get to really understand what really transpired and the shadow diplomacy that Trump ran while he was in office. And that was why I decided to write the book, to make sure that, with everything that's going on, as you can see now, even with the Republicans trying to hold these Biden impeachments, part of their strategy is to hide the truth, to bury the truth, to hold closed-door meetings and come out with their interpretation of the testimony and not even allow people to do open public testimony. So, with all of that going on, one thing they could do is they could try to hide it, but they can't bury it, because the book will reveal, all the intricate parts of what transpired in Ukraine. And not only Ukraine, Venezuela, Turkey, and lots of other places that Trump held foreign diplomacy at that time.
Incredible stuff. Now, Lev, you said your life was a wild ride, but it didn't come without consequences. And just recently, you were sentenced to 20 months on some pretty bogus charges. Why don't you get that out of the way first? What were these charges? Because the way I see them, it kind of proves Russian collusion.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, I got caught in a whirlwind, and at the time when I got arrested, I was a man on my own island because the Democrats were after me because the whistleblower report just came out identifying me and my partner, Igor Fruman, at the time that we were working for Trump and Giuliani in Ukraine, pressuring Zelensky and other presidents, Poroshenko, to get an investigation opened into Joe and Hunter Biden. When that news broke, it basically kind of, put us in the spotlight, what I'm saying to you. And but in a negative spotlight when it came to the Democrats, and also when it came to the Republican Party, very few people in Trump's world really stood and wanted this whole Ukraine thing to continue and go on. It was really led by Trump and Giuliani themselves. Everybody else in the administration was against it. And one of the people that was against it primarily was Bill Barr. Back then when I got arrested and I started, talking about how corrupt Bill Barr was, people couldn't believe it and didn't want to understand it, thought that I was just trying to say things. But thank God I had the receipts, and now time has proven and shown us exactly who Bill Barr is and what he's capable and what he was capable and what he did do and how he, two-faced changed towards the end to try to save his butt. By going now talking about how Trump did illegal things but did nothing to stop him when he was in office, only enabled him by trying to protect him, and that's where we came in. Our arrest was basically, if you remember, when we got arrested, it was probably one of the most high-profile arrests because the intent and what they were trying to say was that we were Russian spies infiltrating Trump, and we were the ones that were putting all of this disinformation about Ukraine and the ambassador, and we were trying to get her out, and we were working for the Russians. And this whole negative narrative, which was totally false and untrue, but it was put in there to be able to discredit me from being able to testify under oath on Congress in the first impeachment of Donald Trump. It was all a tactic to be able to make me look like I was a liar, like I was a hoodlum on the street, a street guy, and not somebody that belonged, and that basically tried to make me look, and it worked because we weren't called as witnesses because not only that, but, the Republican senators voted against having any witnesses there. But that was the game plan. And so I was a man on an island where people in the DOJ, led by Bill Barr himself, wanted to shut me up so we won't testify in front of Congress, and the best way to do that is arrest you. And when they arrested me under charges of almost, you could say, espionage. And that was actually one, I think under the charge which they originally took us in because of the way they treated us. And when they realized that, they did some investigative work and that I wasn't working for any foreign government, but I was working for the President of the United States and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, they had egg on our face, and they had to come up with something to be able to not lose the case. And that's when they came up with, and did I make a mistake when I had my business for a guarantee? Absolutely. I wasn't 100% honest with some of my investors, which were my friends. It wasn't like investors. These were friends. At the time, I thought I was lying to keep the company afloat. Was it wrong? Yes. Should I have been convicted and gone to prison for something like that? Absolutely. I don't think not. I mean, this was business between friends, but, when you lie, I guess it's considered, it doesn't matter what kind of lie it is. The charge is still, wire fraud, and you're looking at 20 years in prison. So they turned it into basically superseded me and charged me with wire fraud and federal election fraud. And the interesting part about federal election fraud, the charge that they charged me with, is I'm the only person that ever got criminally indicted for that. And the story goes behind it. It was a story that was written in the Daily Beast about the way we donated money to Donald Trump's campaign. And that story got picked up by the FCI, or what's the right organization? The federal FEC. The FEC picked it up, filed a complaint, pushed it to a DOJ complaint. So we get indicted on that 2 weeks prior to my trial, to my sentencing. After I already got convicted, I get a letter from the SEC saying that they find me not guilty of the charges after doing their investigation. So the ironic part is that the SEC, who started this whole thing because of a supposed wrong donation, found that we did nothing wrong, but we ended up getting convicted at trial.
And if Lev Parnas gets 20 months over this, George Santos better get 200 years. Okay,
Oh yeah, no, I think George Santos is his goose is cooked. I was blessed. Not only did I have the truth on my side, but my family, an incredible lawyer that I can't thank till this day. But I truly believe that I was blessed to have a really good judge, a fair and honest judge that saw through a lot of the bullshit excuse me for my French, that it was more political, and this was not, that we weren't some kind of criminals that needed to have that exposure. And I think at the end of the day, I was tried fairly. I think he sentenced me fairly. I think my result, the way God blessed me, and it was only allowed me to serve only 4 months in prison, and then being able to serve the remainder of my sentence at home confinement during the COVID crisis. So, I mean, as bad as it sounds, I'm kind of glad it happened, because at the end of the day, Ed, I don't know if I would have been where I would be on January 6th, because I was so deep in that cold Trump. I was drinking that Kool-Aid so much that I had to hit a brick wall, and my brick wall was getting arrested. So open my eyes and realize exactly who was around me and what was going on and what was happening and what I was doing. And with all the bad, I look at it as a good thing. It gave me a new chance in life, and it gave me an opportunity to redeem myself and do good for myself, my country, and for democracy.
Yeah, just on a personal note, just imagine Lev Parnas going into this trial. He had a brand new baby, okay? And that's just, heartbreaking to be ripped away from your child, man. Was Joe DeGenova your attorney in that case?
No, Joe DeGenova
on the other side.
It was Joe Bondi who was my attorney.
Okay.
Joe DeGenova, Victoria Tunding, and Rudy Giuliani were supposedly, they said they were my attorneys, but when I got arrested, they never came to see me. And at the time, Trump hired John Dowd,
right?
Allowed him to represent me. So John Dowd and Kevin Downing were representing me until I fired them in prison.
Okay, but let me interrupt you for a second, because you're a very savvy guy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And my understanding of this story is you were on a plane to Vienna with Sean Hannity. Giuliani was supposed to be on that plane, and you were on this plane to go obtain some Hunter Biden laptop information. Am I correct?
Correct, absolutely.
And they pop you on this plane, but at that point, a savvy guy like you still went along with, even when Rudy dropped out at the last second, you still went along with Trump's lawyers?
Well, you got to understand that when we got arrested, I didn't understand what I was. We were never told what we got arrested for. We were basically, taken in, booked. We got a phone call to call Downing at the time to be able to come out to the arraignment, and they took us in. Nobody explained to us. Nobody read us Miranda rights. Nobody spoke to us about anything. They said your attorney will explain to you. So I didn't know what charges we were even, what that was even about, what was happening. So I had no idea. And at the time, because I was drinking the Kool-Aid so much, I knew that the deep state was after Trump, and I was still under the impression that they're going after us to go after Trump. And basically, the first few days in prison, I was waiting for the cavalry to come. And, Rudy and, the lawyers, and to be able, get me out, because I never did anything so bad or illegal in my life that I expected that, they were telling me I had like $10 million bail at first or something like that. It was like crazy type of numbers. And so eventually it got worked out. So at the beginning, I was in shock and not understanding what actually transpired.
But Lev, if you're sitting around, and you look around and Rudy's not there, Rudy didn't show up. He had a cold that morning, like in The Godfather, right? The driver had a cold. That didn't tip you off right there?
Well, what tipped me off really was the postcard that I received and underneath my door, that was slipped underneath my door by some guards from the White House, from Rudy Giuliani, telling me to basically apologizing for not being there and telling me not to worry. I have great lawyers, that that Paul Manafort only got 7.5 years.
Whoa.
So I took that, and you got to understand, I was in a isolated facility. I was not allowed phone calls, mail. I didn't even have a number. So there was, the only way you could even send mail to an inmate is you have to have his number. It has to be addressed to him. And there's a lot of protocol that has to go through to even reach him. And this was not a postcard that came to me through regular mail. It was slipped under my cell in the middle of the night. And then the next night, when I was able to take it out and in my underwear and be able to hand it over to my attorney to get it out of there to have as evidence, they strip searched me and strip searched the cell to be able to try to find a postcard without telling me that that's what they were looking for. But I understood that was basically meant for me to take a look, and then basically they were supposed to take it back out. But I was able to get it out of there.
Okay.
So I understood. So that's when I understood that, I'm going to, be the fall guy. And that, and what happened right afterwards is actually the next day I get a visit from my attorneys at the time who were Trump's Downing and Dowd. And they sat behind a table, and I was aggressively screaming at them, saying, "What's going on? How come I'm not bailed out yet? Where's Rudy? Where's Trump?" And I also heard from certain either inmates or guards while I was in that Trump had came out and made a statement that he didn't know who I was. And I came out and I said that to John. I said, "John, why is he going on national television saying he doesn't know who I am and making me look like that, like I'm some kind of criminal?" And John Dowd, in his military style, basically pounded his fist onto the table and screamed at me, saying, "Look, who do you think you are?" In cursive letters, words, telling me that he's the president, that he's the boss, and whatever he says, and I should just sit back, keep my mouth shut, and everything is going to be okay. I lost it. I basically lunged at them. At that point, I was grabbed by the guards and taken out, and as I was screaming that you're fired. So at that moment, I was in prison, in a jail cell with no legal representation because I fired them while I was inside.
Okay, I hope you're listening. The book is called Shadow Diplomacy. Lev Parnas, Wild Ride from Brooklyn to Donald Trump's Inner Circle. In a real world, this would be a movie already, okay? Starring, I don't know, Dustin Hoffman maybe. I don't know who would get to play Lev Parnas. But Lev, tell us, what do you know about the Hunter Biden laptops, all of the laptops?
Ed, before I get into that, I was just going to say to you, the ride is so crazy. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you that if you would have saw this movie 10 years ago or a movie about this 10 years ago, a true movie about what transpired 10 years ago, you would never believe it. You would never could imagine that certain things like this could transpire in our democracy, in our country, and our government system. So
and also, too, the importance of Lev Parnas being able to come on here and say this. The Democrats don't want him to say this, and the Republicans don't want him to say this. Where's he going to go? He can't go on CNN or Fox.
Exactly. That's why, I was a man to stand up. But now, I've been a huge advocate of getting the truth out. Yeah. And, I've been saying all along, let the truth out and then let it play out. I'm sorry for the dog in the background. And that's my main mission because the truth speaks for itself. Facts speak for itself. People could have opinions and think one thing or the other, but we need to concentrate on facts and exactly what transpired. And that's what my mission in life is right now, is to clear up the wrongs that I've done by spreading this disinformation, and being able to atone by getting the truth out and letting the American public know exactly what transpired once and for all, and put this behind us so we can move on and try to unite.
Lev Parnas, Parnas. You can find him, LevRemembers.com, Lev Parnas on Twitter. Tell us about the Hunter Biden laptop.
Okay, so I can't go too much into it. I will go and abroad what's been talked about just to get you up to speed because, as you know, currently there's impeachment trials going on. The Republicans are pushing forward with impeaching Joe Biden. They're currently holding hearings. Excuse me. I just got a little water.
I think that's Rudy yapping in the background.
Yeah, it definitely is. I call him Rico Rudy.
There you go.
So anyway, because of that, I am currently probably going to be called as a witness. So I want to be careful of what I do talk about, so I don't, mess up any of the testimony, because I think it's, I've been waiting so long to get the testimony out in the proper way, not just in the media forum, but under oath. So it's could be documented, and it could be questioned, and it could be proven, and it could go down as fact to be able to once and for all clear up. So what I will tell you about is this, that the Hunter Biden laptop, which miraculously came about when the public first heard about it, I think it was in 2021, or 2020 wasn't the first time we heard about it. The first time we heard about it, when I say we, I consider as the BLT team that was made up of myself, Rudy Giuliani, John Solomon, Victoria Tunding, Joe DeGenova, that worked. It was basically Trump's right hand. When Trump would go on TV and say, "People tell me," we were the people that would tell him. I mean, that was basically how close. And we called ourselves the BLT team because we met at the BLT restaurant at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. in a private room. So basically, we were told first about this in March of 2019 by General Prosecutor of Ukraine, Lutsenko. He told us that there are rumors that there is that the CEO of Burisma, Zlochevsky, has copies of a hard drive of Hunter Biden's laptop that has some nasty pictures on it of him doing drugs and with some girls. We've tried through every source possible for a period of 3-4 months afterwards to try to be able to find this hard drive, because that was mission number one from Giuliani to us. And we, at some point, decided that this laptop probably doesn't exist because we couldn't get it. We were hitting dead-end walls, just like everything else that we were getting from Ukraine at the time. It was a lot of innuendos, accusations, but there was no facts to back it up. And the facts basically were spins that John Solomon and Rudy Giuliani and Victoria Tunding would work out with people like Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson, and then they go play it on Fox to be able to work around the facts. So then all of a sudden, June of 2019, I was at a meeting with Rudy and one of his associates, Vitaly Prus, that basically we found out at that time that he was the gentleman that actually got Hunter Biden his job in Burisma, and he was very close to both Devon Archer and both also close to Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, the energy company Hunter was working for.
So Rudy's friend is the one who got Hunter the job at Burisma.
Correct. A small world, huh?
Yeah. No, wait, do you think there was any compensation involved in that? Any kind of...
It wasn't compensation because I can't go too deep into the story right now, but I could tell you when you read the book or when you read my testimony transcripts when I testify, you'll understand that there was a lot of things going behind the scenes with Hunter. The people, Hunter Biden had no idea what was going on behind the scenes with certain oligarchs and Russian assets that were trying to get this done.
Yeah, and once that's released, it'll be up on
the.
Yeah, once that's released, it'll be up on the Opperman Report Patreon, unedited, along with the Devon Archer testimony we have up there, unedited.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the most important thing. Unedited testimonies without a spin, because that's what they're trying to do. So yeah, there's a lot more to the story when it comes to the Hunter Biden laptop. Rudy Giuliani it wasn't a coincidence that the laptop shop owner, when he found the laptop, the first person he contacted was Rudy Giuliani and his attorney and handed it over to him. It's not coincidence that Rudy Giuliani was the first one to disseminate hard drives to the New York Post and social media. There's been, can't go into it, but there's definitely a lot of stuff that has been put on those laptops, a lot of stuff that's been taken off those laptops. So there's a lot more to what the Republicans are just trying to, throw bits and pieces into the media and confuse the public and just try to get their agenda out, because they're not looking for a conviction. They're not looking for, they know there's no dare there. Their whole game plan is to drag this thing out long enough for it to be in the news during the elections until the 2024 elections. And that's their game plan, because the truth is very easy and very simple. And you just gotta look at it. They don't want people to look at it. That's why they're trying to bury it.
Well, Lev Parnas, where does the Dr. Keith Abloh laptop fit into all this?
So, again, I can't go too deep into the different laptops, but I could just tell you that there were several copies made of the hard drive. There were 2 different laptops. There were also hard drives there's a lot going on with it that has been the way it's been disseminated through Fox and the conservative media. It's bits and pieces and not verified truths that have confused the people. Where most people, think that there's a lot of stuff that was on those laptops that were really not on there. This was just stuff that was thrown into the media. And also, there's still the story of how Giuliani actually got those laptops and what he knew about them and who was involved and how they actually got that information from Hunter Biden and how they were able to get the laptops. And I go into it all in my book. I hold nothing back and I tell everything. So, like I said, you could either hear about it in the book or in my unedited testimony, whatever comes first.
Or the next time you come back, because I'm going to beg you to come back.
Or the next time.
Shadow Diplomacy, Lev Parnas, Wild Ride from Brooklyn to Donald Trump's inner circle. Back to Russian collusion. I had two guests on last week, two guys I respect, and they're both telling me, Ed, Russia hoax, Russia hoax, Russia gate's all a hoax. What does Lev Parnas have to say?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with them. I've said it from the beginning. I think the Russian Russian hoax, whatever you want to call it, was played out, was pushed too far. There was no there. There were there's, but they didn't concentrate on the real people that were colluding in Trump's campaign, that were colluding with the Russians. They were just trying to prove that Trump himself was colluding with Putin directly. And I could tell you that Putin and Trump had no relationship. In the beginning, Putin thought that Trump was a clown. He was just a useful clown that they would basically play into whatever Putin's game plan was. Putin didn't have to call Trump and tell him, listen, I want you to go dismantle NATO. Trump did it on his own, which it was like a present to Putin. Putin didn't have to call Trump and say, I want you to go out there and disregard all your security information about and say that Russia did not collude in the election. Trump did because it benefited him, so it benefited Putin. You follow what I'm saying to you? They were. It was collusion. I mean, like when Trump comes out, there was instances where, when Trump came out and made that comment, like, if Russia, if you're listening, find me 30,000 emails. Like, you could look at stuff like that, but there was no direct. The direct collusion came from people like Paul Manafort, people like his name slips my mind right now, but people that were actually in touch with the Russians, in conversations with Russians, had business with Russians, lobbied for Russians, had Russian interests involved, and were in a very high position in Trump's inner circle. You follow what I'm saying to you? And would Trump be aware of certain things? Absolutely. You also have to understand Trump ran that White House and runs his life like a mob boss. So when Michael Cohen comes out and makes the statements, he's 100% right. The way that Trump looked. So if somebody came to him and said, a wealthy donor or somebody in his group, inner circle, came up and said, I might be able to get something from the Russians on this, a wink and a nod, that's all it took. You understood that that's what he needed. Or he said, well, see where it leads you, or he would make a comment where it's like, he's not asking for it, but he's letting you know that he wants you to go get it and get it done. You follow what I'm saying to you?
Yes, 100%. Now, you're hanging around 24 hours a day with people like Rudy Giuliani, Joe DeGenova, these characters. What did they have to say about the Steele dossier?
Well, that was one of the big problems also, because the Steele dossier was not all good. You know what I'm saying to you? Eventually, certain stuff in the dossier got debunked, and, Steele himself was, not the most standing upright character. You follow what I'm saying to you? So because of that, they gave him enough ammunition. So, you got to look at all the stuff that was coming out. It's like a war. If they had enough ammunition to cause doubt and cause deflection and cause you to think that this is all made up because it's too crazy to be true, which a lot of the information would be sometimes too crazy to be true, but it is, because, that's just how Trump ran things. It would give them the ammunition to go out there and to skew the truth, deflect the truth, and continuously to spew lies about it until it was either irrelevant, the news cycle changed, or we went on to the next thing. That might have been even worse or not as worse, but you can't see. At that point, you go after what's fresh. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do. Now, Trump was going to make you the marijuana czar.
I don't know if the marijuana czar, but we did have at a dinner conversation, and that was actually taped and leaked to the public, where I made a big push because I'm a very big cannabis advocate, and made a push. And there were people in the Trump administration that were pro-cannabis, but didn't know how to speak to him or, bring up the subject, and I was tasked with it. So at the dinner, I basically brought it up and told him that I think that by him federally legalizing cannabis would get a tremendous amount of young and old votes for him in the 2020 election. And he liked the idea and proposed doing a bipartisan cannabis committee, which I would head up, and we would figure out what would be the best way to legalize cannabis, to make it taxable, make it bankable, and make it, decriminalized. And so, yes, we did have conversation there, but then the whole Ukraine and Biden thing took over, and it was the only thing that Trump could see for the next year was Ukraine and Biden, nothing else. It's like a bull seeing red in front of your eyes.
I tell you, my old buddies at High Times would be very jealous of Lev Parnas being the marijuana czar. But let me ask you this. You're from Florida. Did any of this marijuana czar negotiation type stuff, did it involve people around Matt Gaetz, those lobbyists around Matt Gaetz and DeSantis?
Well, not Matt Gaetz as much, but even though he was pro-cannabis, he was one of the advocates for it at the time. But DeSantis, I'm the one that flipped DeSantis. The reason why DeSantis is governor of Florida is because he made a pact with me that he would be pro-cannabis in Florida. And if you take a look, right before Trump endorsed him, he came out with a pro-cannabis statement as part of his campaign, supporting medical cannabis in Florida. And that was one of the main reasons why I lobbied Trump on behalf of DeSantis to support him and give him the endorsement that took DeSantis. And that was one of the reasons. I was very close with DeSantis. I was part of his whole campaign. I was part of raising money for him. I was part of, in the book, which I can't get into now, but if you read the book, you'll understand there was, DeSantis won by, a couple of thousand votes, under 2,000 votes. And there's certain things that transpired towards the end of the race for governor, and the 2 weeks prior to, or the week prior to, there was a major announcement about an FBI investigation, a person in the Gilliam camp that came out against him. It all sounded to the people that it was coincidental, but it wasn't coincidental. I talk about it in the book and break it all down, how the people in the DeSantis campaign, alongside with DeSantis, colluded with people in the Gilliam campaign to come out with this incriminating news a week prior to the elections.
Any relationship today?
Definitely. Any relationship to what?
Any relationship today with DeSantis, Gaetz, these fellows in Florida?
No, well, Gaetz has became a hardcore Trumper, and he lost his mind completely. Not that he had a mind to begin with, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
But now he's completely off the wall. And DeSantis is, he took a stance alongside Trump and all the other cronies when I got arrested, pretending he didn't know who I was, that I was just some donor, even though there's, hundreds of articles and news reporting that came out discrediting him with, me having hundreds of text messages and stuff like that. And they've taken the approach. And alongside, if you take a look at Trump also, I'm the only person that's tangled with Trump that Trump does not respond to derogatory towards. And it's hard to think about, but he responds to 16-year-old girls that try to change the climate and makes fun of the way they look because they don't agree with his policy. But, with all the Twitter, social media, thousands of interviews I have done on television and going into Congress, giving information and the impeachment and everything else, Trump has not once came out and attacked me or tried to go at it with me. And DeSantis and the rest of them, like McCarthy and all of them, took the same approach by trying just to deny and deflect. And so because if you respond, then it opens up the can of worms. And they all know I have the receipts. And that's why I put them in the book to make sure that even though they don't want to confront, we're going to get the truth out anyway, and people are going to get to understand and see what really happened behind closed doors in Washington, D.C. and shadow diplomacy.
Yeah, now this book is going to be out by Christmas, so it'll make a great Christmas gift, Shadow Diplomacy, and you can get it right now, a pre-order at Lev Parnas, L-E-V, that's his first name, Lev, P-A-R-N-A-S. No, it's LevRemembers.com, but his name is Lev Parnas. You can find him on Twitter. LevRemembers.com. You can pre-order this book, Shadow Diplomacy. Now, Shadow Diplomacy relates to your work in Ukraine. They sent you to Ukraine to dig up dirt on Hunter Biden.
Oh, it's more than that. I think Shadow Diplomacy, the book, is very important for the public to read now, especially with what's going on in Congress and as they're trying to impeach Biden. It has a lot to do with information in the book. But it goes into a lot more than that because, like I said, he changed the news cycle so many times. There's things that happened in the 4 years that people haven't. And Shadow Diplomacy is more how he ran his how Rudy being the shadow Secretary of State, having a shadow Secretary of State, shadow diplomacy, and it has to do with what happened in Venezuela.
I was going to ask you about that. I did a whole show about Venezuela. Rudy and Trump's private security guards were heavily involved in that coup attempt, that invasion of Venezuela that was put down by angry fishermen. Right? What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's and when you read the book, you'll get all the details. But I'll tell you this much: I'll give you some juicy stuff that will you understand. So, first of all, I was involved. It was me, Rudy, a major Republican donor in Florida, billionaire that had ties to Maduro. Congressman Pete Sessions, who now sits on the actual committee that is going to be interesting, and it all had to do again with money. Yeah, it had to do with somebody trying to get 2 billion barrels of oil deal from PDVSA, which is a state-owned Venezuelan oil company. And it had to do with the underhanded shadow diplomacy ways about how people in Trump's inner circle, and Trump went heads up with Pompeo and Bolton, who were against any soft landing for Maduro, but how, it went to as far as I participated in a phone call with Maduro on the phone with certain people like Giuliani and others to discuss giving Trump a message to be able to get a soft landing and to stop the invasion. So, yeah, I go into it in detail. There's a lot that people don't know, and I recommend you read it and understand that Ukraine, it was just one of them. And you understand that even though I wasn't involved in the Saudi Arabia stuff, but you could see how he ran shadow diplomacy in other countries. You'll understand how he ran his diplomacy in the Middle East also when it comes to Saudi Arabia, Kushner, and everything else.
Yeah, nobody talks about that Venezuela invasion. Now, one of those people involved with that was a Venezuelan coke-dealing general who was a money laundering client of Rudy Giuliani?
Actually, Giuliani had several clients. One that when you read the book, you'll see that it doesn't just end with Maduro. It continued to meetings in Spain with Guaido's father and videotape conversations with Guaido in the White House. So there's a lot more to that Venezuela story. And I basically definitely don't hold back and talk about, the people involved. And it has to do with the Super PAC, America First Super PAC, and people involved in there. It has to do with people, big-time donors. It has to do with people that work for the State Department, the CIA. I mean, it's a lot to that story.
That's an incredibly untold or undertold story. Shadow Diplomacy by Lev Parnas. LevRemembers.com. Get your pre-order. Maybe I can get Lev to send me an advance copy. I'd love to read that about Venezuela alone. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
But Ukraine now, you're the one that set up the perfect phone call?
Yep. I set up the perfect phone call, and I was the first one to give not only Zelensky the quid pro quo about the military aid, but there was another quid pro quo that people don't know about. It started in the Poroshenko administration when I had a 3-hour meeting on behalf of Trump with President Poroshenko of Ukraine, and that's where it all started. So there's a lot more to the story than just what you heard in the small bits and pieces during the impeachment that was then wiped out by COVID, and people basically forgot what happened in his impeachment in Ukraine. Because to this day, I believe that if our senators and congressmen stood up for our democracy and did what was right and impeached him in his first impeachment, we would not be here today. We would not have January 6th.
Yeah.
We would not have all these people that have died or gone to prison, and we would not have such destruction and division in our country as we're seeing today. So I blame it all on them. The blood on the Ukrainian people's hands is on their hands, and all of this chaos that Trump is causing till this day is caused because they didn't have the backbone to stand up and to Trump and basically, convict him and impeach him of crimes that were.
Did I lose it?
It's just like myself, like Bolton and other people that were in there. It would have been an open and shut, but they allowed him to continue, and that's why we're here today.
Lev Parnas, one of the things you always hear on Hannity and those kind of characters that they say, but Biden wanted to fire the prosecutor over there on behalf of Burisma. But then when you hear Devin Archer's testimony, he says, oh, no, they like that prosecutor. What do you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you got to understand, and this is the funny and crazy part about how insane our world is. Majority of the talking points that Hannity and these guys, Carlson and all of them use, are talking points that I gave them, that we knew were not true, but that we didn't have their validation for, but that were pushed by Giuliani and Solomon because they were unvalidated or verified information. When it comes to the video, you have to understand that they're just giving you, again, bits and pieces and not giving you the whole story. They're not telling you how first of all, Biden did not make those decisions and didn't have the power to make it. It was an Obama administration decision that was led by the whole world, the IMF, the Ukrainian parliament themselves wanted choking out. So basically, the whole world wanted choking out. Biden just happened to be the voice for everybody and make it happen. Now, was the optics bad about him coming out and saying that? Yes, I agree with you. And that's one of the main reasons why we're here today, because, again, like I said, when you give the other side something to hold on to and to blow up, that's what they do. And they basically took that video, took that little cut portion of it and keep replaying it and saying it's black and white, that's right, that he got rid of him, without telling the whole story behind the scenes, who this prosecutor is, who he was taking bribes from, why he got fired, when this investigation was. It was in 2010 and 12 when Hunter Biden wasn't even nowhere near the board of elector that he was on in Burisma. So there's so much to it that if you hear the whole truth, then you understand that, it will get you so angry at what the Republicans are doing and have been doing for the past 3-4 years now with this whole Biden stuff.
Yeah, people definitely need to tune into Lev Parnas. Lev Remembers on his podcast at levremembers.com. Now, you mentioned earlier that the CEO or someone over at Burisma there had a laptop too as well. So were they putting pressure on Hunter too?
Well, there was 2 laptops that we knew of, that there were 2 copies made and hard drives that we knew 100% of, that were told to us by the source. One was in possession of the FSB, which is the Russian equivalent to either FBI or CIA. And the other copy was with the CEO of Burisma, the owner who hired Hunter Biden. And they both had a copy to have compromise on him, and to be able to maybe use that down the road if they needed to be able to use it as maybe get out of jail card, or to put pressure on the Biden administration or the Obama administration. So they used that and collected information about Hunter Biden. It wasn't that difficult. He was in a very messed up stage. He was in a drug-infused, alcohol-infused. He was not in his right state of mind. His brother passed away. He was going through a lot of things, and it was not that difficult to obtain all this compromise. But the interesting part, and I want to make it clear to all your listeners and viewers out there, that to keep the eye on the ball, and what's extremely important is that all the conversations we've ever had, and trust me when I tell you, we've looked under every rock and turned over every single piece of dirt that we could get information on, and we were never, ever able to find, first, any evidence, any concrete evidence of any criminal illegality that either Joe or Hunter Biden did, first of all. Second of all, there was no even when you look through past the initial headline of whatever information would come in, like, oh, we have proof of Joe Biden taking a bribe from Hunter. And then when you went deeper in, you would realize that there was no proof. It was on a lot of hearsay from people that were not relevant or connections to the Russian sources. And so it was always lead you into dead ends. Dead ends. So, and the most important, go ahead.
Well, so then right now, Hunter Biden is suing a bunch of people. Is Lev Parnas going to be an expert witness or perhaps a consultant in those lawsuits?
I'm available to help any side get the truth out, whoever's looking for truth. And I'm very actually pleased that Hunter has finally gone on the attack. It's been a long time coming, taking all of this from them. And I think he has a lot of evidence on his side. And, yes, if I'm called as an expert witness or a consultant, or I'm definitely available to help because I think the truth is important to get out what transpired and who did what and who was behind the scenes of making it happen.
Will you definitely be testifying before Congress in the impeachment, these Comer hearings?
It's an interesting question. Should I be testifying? If you listen to Jamie Raskin and any common sense individual, I should be testifying, Rudy Giuliani should be testifying, and Hunter Biden should be testifying. These are the three major players, Hunter Biden himself and Rudy Giuliani and myself, who were involved in the whole mission of getting all this information out to get where we are today. So why wouldn't you want to listen to these three people? But unfortunately, like I said, Comer and Jordan and Green and all of these Republicans that don't want the truth to come out, so they are not they're not allowing me and Rudy to testify. And they're not allowing Hunter Biden to testify in front of the people. They want to do it in closed doors. So they're up to no good in trying to spin the narrative in their own way. But I truly believe that, if this does proceed, there's no way they could not have me there as a witness to get the truth out, because I was privy to everything that happened from day one till the day I was arrested. And, like I said, they have all my information, text messages, they have all my emails, so they know what I know. And that's why I think the Democrats want me to get the truth out and fighting hard for me to testify. And that's why the Republicans are trying to bury my testimony, just like they did when they arrested me in the first impeachment, was to shut me up and not to get the truth out that I have. And that was the main reasons why I decided to write the book, because I don't know what's going to happen if I testify or not. I hope I do to get the truth out. But even if I don't, they can't stop the book from coming out, and people will be able to read it, buy it, and understand exactly what transpired and what I would testify if I was called to testify in Congress.
Yeah, once again, you can go to levremembers.com and Shadow Diplomacy. You can pre-order it right now and get it by Christmas. So, Lev, what do you do for a living today? You're a very successful man your whole life. What are you doing now?
Today, I'm spending a lot of time with my family. I'm getting back to all those lost years that we lost in this craziness, that whirlwind that took over my life after my arrest, from the criminal aspect of it, media aspect of it, family aspect of it. It was very painful and hurtful, not just for me, but for my kids, my family. And right now I'm concentrating on being a good dad, being a good husband, finding the lost time we have. But my main goal in life is to fight to keep our democracy and to save our democracy from crazy tyrant dictators like Donald Trump, and get the truth out, because a lot of powerful people have tried to bury it, and I think the American public deserves it. So I've been working very hard with everything that's going on right now to get the book out and spend time with the family.
Yeah, Lev Parnas, I hear you, man. I hear you, and I do the, I'm doing what I can too, right? But they already had you, man. They had you in that cage. They're slipping a note under the door. How'd this note get here? Federal prison. This guy's got juice to send me a note, right? That's terrifying stuff. Now, what motivates you, man? Why don't you just go away and say, "Well, that's it, man. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to be a fisherman."
You know, Ed, it's a great question, and I'll put it to you this way. First of all, the environment I grew up in. I grew up fighting for everything that I have today, and I'm not a quitter. I'm a fighter, and when I have something on my mind, I try to get it done. Unfortunately, it happened on a bad way when I was drinking the Kool-Aid and I was part of Trump's cult, and basically I was doing everything I could to try to save our democracy at that time, thinking I was a hero, that I'm going to conquer the deep state and I'm going to save our democracy. As wrong as I was, that drives me today to make right for what happened, and actually now not so much be a hero, but be somebody that stands out there, is not scared to talk truth to power, to be able to get information out and try to do everything in my power to do the wrongs, do right by the wrongs that I did, and be able to unite our country as much as we can, because I think the majority of the people, if they read the book and understand exactly who Trump is, because most people don't know who this individual is. They've never spent time with them. They'll never have a chance. They've never shook his hand. They've never had 2 minutes to really understand what it is he's about. They look at him as a character on TV and imagine him as something that they want him to be, a loyal guy that's fighting for a democracy. He's far from it. He doesn't know what loyalty is. Loyalty goes only one way in his camp, and people need to really understand who Donald Trump is and to what degree he's willing to go and was willing to go in his first term as president. To understand, God forbid, if he's ever elected again, to what degree or to what he will go if he's ever elected in his next term as president.
Lev Parnas.
And that's why I think the book is...
The book, Shadow Diplomacy, Lev Parnas' Wild Ride from Brooklyn to Donald Trump's Inner Circle, LevRemembers.com. But Lev, there's another book out there called Moral Courage by a man named Anthony Feinstein, and it's about reporters and whistleblowers around the world who have this moral courage, just like you described in yourself, humbly. And what motivates them to go out there under overwhelming obstacles, man, to bring the truth to the public. And I would recommend that book to you, my friend. You should be in the book. But he wrote a book.
I'm definitely going to read that.
And if you look at the pictures, there's a lot of pictures. So it's a big coffee table book, $50. If you look at the pictures of these reporters and you see their face, it's the same face you see when you look in the mirror in the morning. Lev Parnas, LevRemembers.com. You can find him on Twitter. I recommend you follow him there. He's always dribbling out little goodies all the time, man, on Twitter. And Shadow Diplomacy, Lev Parnas, Wild Ride from Brooklyn to Donald Trump's Inner Circle. Lev Remembers is a podcast. Check that out. You can find that at LevRemembers.com. Lev Parnas, man, thank you so much.
Ed, thank you.
Good night, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Good night, and thank you to all the listeners that are listening, and I hope you enjoyed the book.
Oh.
I promise you will.
I'll mention it a few times, trust me. Thank you, sir.
I know you will.
Bye.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Have a great day.
Good night.
Bye-bye.